Hello folks and welcome to episode 17 of Squares Realm. Quite a few wee topics today which I haven't really wrote loads of notes down about them because I know a fair bit about each of the subjects, even though it's probably not going to be as sharp on factual information, as far as remembering exact dates and stuff. I'm pretty knowledgeable on the subject, so I think I can talk freely. And plus on the upside, it keeps things a wee bit more loose and more of a real conversation rather than, preparing loads of notes and that. But a few things I want to talk about here. Sort of harking on the Soy My R podcast where I talk about Christianity and things like that there. You'd be fooled for thinking that I was some sort of hardline Christian that abandoned science in every corner, which I don't. I do believe rationality is a fundamental healthy way to navigate the world and understand it. But there's also a side to me that sees a very sea-ladded approach. The scientific sort of being moulded as an ideology and as a way to politically think and stuff like that there, as far as atheism and stuff like that go. I'm more of a hermeticist. And a hermeticist is the old idea that science and religion need to coexist, otherwise one won't function healthily without the other. Sort of the idea that a healthy heart can't manage an unhealthy mind, and an unhealthy mind can't manage a healthy heart. That sort of way. It's like a symbiosis of both the spiritual and the material is what we need to focus on. That's what the Hermeticists sort of thought. They thought they had the idea that although the world seems chaotic to us now, and this, sort of understanding the world and a whole of what was understood in its entirety would be a more harmonious thing. It would be a more organic thing, and it wouldn't seem so random to us if we could correlate all the data. So the Hermeticists sort of believed in the idea that God had a perfect plan, and although the universe is confusion, there's a kind of an almost fucking symbiotic sort of beauty to it. But that's why I'm sort of in my frame of mind lately. I'm a bit of a hermeticist. I'm sort of learning to mould science and religion together, because science on its own to me has just became objective nihilism, and it's just it produces novelty but gives you very little meaning as far as morale goes and things like that. And I know you have boys like Ricky Gervais and all the rest of them telling you, I understand everything and it gives me insight to fucking problems, and that's religion is so immoral and all that. And I've heard all the arguments personally, and you can say I'm comforting myself or whatever, but as I get older, it's not so much that my mental faculties tell me these things may exist, but it's my intuition, it's my instinct, it's observing people around me, and it's also cool to believe things that don't cause you fucking depression. So I think belief is a choice, and I think we're entitled to believe whatever we want. We can go into the realm of fact checkers and stuff like that there, which is now the authority. People paid an authority to decide what the commoners like us decide is truth. That's a slippery slope that can't go very far. But never mind that. What I wanted to say to clarify was that I'm not totally anti-science. I'm more anti-science being an ideology. Some of my favourite people are rational thinkers and scientists to the core, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. This guy called Richard Feynman. Also, before I talk about this guy, it's important to understand too that Einstein was agnostic. I don't know if I talked about that in previous documentaries, but Einstein was agnostic, and Einstein knew that although no data presents itself for a proof of a God, no data presents itself disproving a God either. It's purely subjective, and you can't eradicate the non-material based on a material framework. But this guy, Richard Feynman. Hey, this guy was an atheist himself. He didn't believe in God, but it's his passion for life that he says for like common people, and like just his vigor and passion. It's such a positive outlook. He was a true scientist. He used to always talk about the difference between what you think you know and what you don't know. And I would say a lot of scientists now are not learning from the likes of Richard Feynman when they assert their confident belief in God, or confident disbelief in God, actually. Because, as I said before, science is like simulation theory and stuff like that are only thrown in the fists of scientists nowadays, who are going to be, very certainly confronted with the idea that maybe they are going to have to entertain, if not Jesus, if not Allah, if not Buddha, if not Atma, if not any of the so-called fictional gods. They will have to confront the possibility of an intelligent, conscious creator, which the data is now pointing to through simulation theory and stuff like that. So, suddenly these confident atheists that find so much comfort in dismissing the act of God, well, the science is now presenting itself that this is now part of the equation and may be a reality. But first of all, before I talk about another scientist, I want to talk about Richard Feynman, the guy I mentioned there. This guy's an atheist and he had a complete zest for life. He was there's quite a few good documentaries about him available online, which are fucking excellent. Hey, no joke about it. This boy is he's a very interesting man. Such passionate guy, He discovered what went wrong with Challenger. If you don't remember that there, Challenger exploded and the entire team at NASA could not figure out what went wrong with the ship. They didn't have a fucking clue. They looked at the rings, the technicality, the fuel, they looked at it all. The team of NASA scientists, the people that sent man on the moon as a collective whole, could not fucking figure out why the fucking Challenger ship crashed. But of course, Richard Feynman went on there with his bright mind and, bright fucking ideas, and he has this ability of being able to look at things afresh and new. When he was growing up with his father back in the day, his father taught him to think differently. He used to say to him, try and think like a Martian. He would say stories like, you wake up every morning. He said, look at human beings, look how they act. You wake up every morning, and as the sun is arching over the earth, people get up out of bed, and the whole world over, as the sun arches around the earth, people are manically brushing their teeth all the way around until the earth goes around the sun, and they stop. And he says, now not only is the sun connected to humans, but they behave in a certain way, correlating with the sun. And he says, no, the Martian, that must seem so weird. And from an early age, his dad had him thinking, very much outside the box, look at human behaviour, look at the materialism of life, the physics of it, so to speak, and come at it anew, come at it afresh, come at it from another point of view, which is, funnily enough, the name of one of the documentaries about Richard Feynman, which I would recommend you fucking check out. It's fucking great. He sits and talks to an old science fiction writer, and they talk about how they come up with ideas, and Richard Feynman was talking to him and says, he looks at all the facts and then tries and comes up with something new based on the facts. But when he's talking to Arthur C. Clarke, famous science fiction writer, he explains to him how it's completely opposite from him. He comes up with things just chaotically in his mind and molds them into like a scientific sort of, something applicable to a book in reality. So they're both similar in their visions of the future and the world, but they both came at it from a very different angle. But he's an outside the box kind of thinker. So he went into the Challenger situation when it exploded in NASA. I think it was 1983, 1989, somewhere along them lines. I remember actually reading the story, hearing about it as a child. Like, I thought, Jesus, going to the moon, going to space, ain't all fucking glamour, is it? People actually fucking die in that there. But he was able to go on, look at the rings, and he noticed there was ice crystals in some of the video footage, and within a period of a few weeks, he found out what none of the NASA scientists could find out, and he discovered it was ice crystals freezing up on the rings, the O-rings of the fucking NASA fucking rockets, and he quite miraculously figured out the problem, which, you know, furthered our fucking reaches into space. And not only that there, but he's says for life, like, and his ability to you know, make people learn things by explaining it simply. One of his friends was talking about how, you know, they would read physics books and they could never get the gist of how experiments work, but when they would listen to Richard Feynman's lectures, they would just be so easy to understand that when you would go back and try and figure out how he taught you that so well, you wouldn't really understand. It was his inflection, his passion, and telling you these things. You know, people like fed off him, and he had a friend, an artist friend, who was a very fucking interesting guy. This guy, he was big part, and he used to say to Richard Feynman, he said, you know, you look at the flower and you don't see its beauty. He says, I look at the flower and I appreciate the flower for what it is. It's a beautiful thing and needs to be you know, portrayed and expressed. No, he wants to recreate that. And he was trying to like dismiss Richard Feynman as being a scientific thinker, as being cold and detached. But Feynman said, no, he said, I don't think like that. He said, I think very differently from that. He says, to me, the processes of how the light photosynthesizes on the flower, they create you know, these beautiful bright colours that attract other creatures in nature, just so they can you know, distribute their pollen on those flowers. He said he finds things like that far more fascinating than just simply the surface beauty of a flower. He says he thinks the flower is beautiful in many different ways just by its, you know, appearance. He's a very fucking interesting man. He great guy. One of my favourite depressions. When his sister fucking Joan was a wee girl, who she's now went on to be a prominent scientist herself, just based on this story. Richard Feynman went there in the middle of the night, woke her up. She was just a wee girl, you know, he was just a teenager. He's been into physics since he was no age. He outstripped his dad when he was about 10, and he started forming mathematical equations that geniuses were coming up with 100 years before. He was figuring them out as a Jack Todd, as a wee boy. But anyway, he got his sister up out of bed in the middle of the night, and he said, I something that's going to fucking really make you happy. The way he sort of knew your interests and stuff. And she said, she got up out of the bed in the middle of the night. She goes, well, what is it? And he goes, come with me, follow me. And he brought her down to the middle of a forest, and she couldn't see nothing. She was walking through all this dark, you know, dark trees and stuff, and travelling down the ways. And he said, look up. And she looked up, and she seen all these beautiful colours and lights and things happening in the sky. And she said, God, Jesus, you know what is that? What is that? And he said, I knew you would love it. He said, that's called Aurora Borealis. He said, it's one of the last mysteries in the world that nobody knows how it's been done. But of course, Joan Feynman's been a leading pioneer now in understanding what caused Aurora Borealis and Northern Lights and that phenomena. So he even knew, is that kind of smartness, he even knew that to her it would excite her mind, and probably unknowingly led her into, you know, whole scientific career and like fucking going after that for me. And that's what I'm trying to say about Richard Feynman, is he really had an ability to spark minds, and just like his artist friend, he would embrace other people's ideas of the word. He became a very adequate draftsman at painting pictures and stuff like that. He actually helped discover the atom bomb, and he worked on that there along with Einstein and all the rest of them. But they duped him, and they thinking they were going to use it against the Nazis, and that said, well, geez, you know, we gotta fucking get these Nazis fucking taken care of. But when he cracked the atom bomb, they were going to use it as a deterrent so the Nazis couldn't win the war. But when he cracked the atom bomb, the Americans went and dropped it on Nagasaki then, on Japan, and that completely fucking pickled his head, because he wanted to use science for greatness, but they were politicians, you know, they duped his brilliance, and they bombed Japan, and he literally had the weight of the world on his shoulders, because he created this fucking astronomical weapon, and it was being used, you know, unfairly, and could potentially end the world. And he sunk then into a deep depression, The man was already through several depressions in his upbringing. You know, his young wife died when he was very earlier on. She had tuberculosis and passed away. So he wasn't like a fucking, he didn't have a great life, you know what I mean? But he had a great attitude and great figure and great interest in things. He said he doesn't mind if there's no God. He said if it's just an onion and we peel away at the layers and it goes on forever, he said that's fine by me. He said I can handle that. He said there are people that's scary, but to me it's exciting. It's what is this, you know what I mean? Which brings me on to the other guy, a guy called George Lemaitre, or I'm spelling that wrong. George Lemaitre, that's how you would say it. He's a Belgian mathematician, astronomer and professor of physics, born in 1894 to 1966, and he was the first to identify the expanding universe. He also discovered the Big Bang. After becoming a priest, he wanted to understand, you know, what was the beginning of the world, what truly was that thing described in the Bible. And he went on to discover the Big Bang, and what he originally called was the primeval atom, hypothesis of the primeval atom. And he wanted to understand God, and see, that's what I'm talking about the Hermeticism, and the Hermeticists who wanted to blend religion and science, and you know how a certain amount of rationality will make you deny God, but his vigour for God, an actual Catholic priest, was the discoverer of the Big Bang. Einstein said to begin with his calculations were correct, but his physics was atrocious. He was later proved wrong. He went away and studied a thesis and proved Einstein wrong. And when Einstein was about to die, Einstein wanted to hand a lot of his fucking knowledge down onto him and carry him as the bastion, sort of like Dave Chappelle with Richard Pryor. He wanted to carry him on. He thought he really was a true genius. But he's now got several craters and planets named after him, as well as science of coordinates. I've got some more notes about this guy, but I'll leave you to just research him yourself. George Lemaitre, Lemaitre, George Lemaitre, Lemaitre, 1894 to 1966. But I'll bring him up because a lot of these people that are into science can never correlate religion and science. But there's lots of Christians that are like curious about this word. But there's not so many scientists curious about religion. Isn't that the funny thing? So who's got the blind ideology here? Me, I love both of them. But I can see where religion has fucked up for eons and centuries by their organised religion. You know, I'm not into churches, and you know, it's actually even said in the Bible that you don't need to go to a church to find God. You will find him under a rock in your soul and in your heart, you know, and stuff like that there, you know. But isn't it funny how a lot of people seem to think that, you know, that science and Christianity can't align, yet the very foundational principles of the lot of it, the universe, and everything, was created by a Christian who, I may add, remained Christian even after he discovered the Big Bang. His faith in God never stopped. But I don't want to go too much into the Bible bashing territory, but you can see what I'm getting at here. But we've talked a good wee bit. Where are we at now? We're 18 minutes. I think we'll do another 20 minutes or so. But that's another thing I want to talk about, just to lighten it up a bit. These people that are born genius and don't even know it, don't apply themselves, they like any school of thought, but just naturally have genius abilities. I just recently watched a wee video called Savants and Genius, a wonderful mystical documentary, and it featured a guy called Alonzo, three guys called Alonzo, George and Leslie. Alonzo was this black autistic guy who was able to carve like these intricate fucking beautiful fucking like statues of horses and bulls and animals, and they're like wee miniature Michelangelo fucking statues that are like totally craftsmanship and would take any man years to understand the form and all, but he's just been able to naturally do them with his own school of thought and his own thinking. an absolute genius. He can barely count to 10 without getting confused. Is totally fucking unemployable in any like sort of regular job. But funnily enough, he sells these bronze statues of horses and stuff for high numbers, and like, you know, art galleries and stuff. And then another guy that was on it was this guy George, who George can remember any day of the year, how the wind was blowing, what direction it was going on, the rainfall, the dissipation, the moisture in there. He can do it from any day in the world in recorded history, and as long as he's lived. And he's known this just by collecting information, like literally hearing things as he's going. He's not deep into it. He like knows these things sort of like innately, almost like by hearing conversations, and not like collecting data in one file. Like he's correlating all this by hearing bits and pieces all around the world. An absolute genius. But they can't harness his talent for any other useful fucking applications. But he's obviously got memory capabilities that no supercomputer could fucking beat. You know what I mean? He's a genius, but afflicted by this terrible fucking autism or disabled fucking brain patterns that he has, you know. It's amazing. And then there was this other guy called Leslie. Now Leslie can play any opera song, any masterclass in classical music, from Chopin to Mozart to Beethoven, you name them. He can just hear them by memory and play them on the fucking spot. The wee granny that looks after him for years and years, I think his mother actually abandoned him, but the wee granny bought him a wee piano when he was an infant. He couldn't walk or talk. He was blind. He never said a word. The doctor said, this man is completely fucked. He's not going to make it. But she believed in it, boy, and she was talking about him. She goes, well, I got him a keyboard because I wanted to believe in the boy, and I set the keyboard down beside him, and I just thought maybe if he plays it up and down, he'll get a feel for it. So I left the keyboard with him, and I went to my bed. And a few weeks later, we heard this beautiful music coming from down the stairs. I said to my husband, I said, George, who's that? Is that Leslie playing that? She went down and he was playing fucking Chopin on a fucking wee rudimentary keyboard. Perfect pitch, perfect everything. The fucking he was nailing it. She goes, right, okay. Give him other songs to try and practice. He could record anything, and he just had an innate ability for a keyboard, just automatically, like Mozart was. He just knew how to fucking play it. It made perfect sense to his brain. And the guy doing the interviews him, and he says to him, you know, where do you get this magnificent ability from? And he's just looking up like fucking totally disabled, no mental capacity. And he goes, because I'm a musician. It's just like that. He must have got that idea in his head one day. The wee granny must have called him a musician. He said, right, I'll be a fucking musician. And he poured his whole life into this. And it's just amazing to me how you have these geniuses that work so hard to get to a certain level, and then you have boys like Leon who are just fucking, it's just in them. It's just innate. I think art's a bit like that as well. I think, you just have an innate drive to create art. It's not something that a professional fucking job can necessarily make you an artist, or even going to all the schools in the world. You either make good art or you don't. You know what I mean? It's not someone who can be educated, although you can learn some of the tricks. You'll never truly be a master if you don't have the passion and drive to do it yourself. But so we talked about Richard Feynman, the priest that discovered the Big Bang, and me, Alonso, George and Leslie. And if you want to check out that video about the Autistics, it's really a great watch. And it's only about fucking 10 minutes long, but it's fantastic. It's called Savants and Genius, a wonderful mystical documentary. Savants and Genius, a wonderful mystical documentary. You'll get that on YouTube with a quick search. But very interesting. Hey, very interesting. So I think we'll talk about a few more wee things now. I think we'll talk about Carrol. Carrol got me and they doing these podcasts. Even though we see the wee pictures up on the screens and all, that was Charles Carrol. I got that visual cue of him. I decided I'll do him. But see this guy, he does podcasts and he's basically the antithesis of Joe Rogan. He's the complete opposite of Joe Rogan. This boy doesn't want you to take DMT and fucking get involved in psyops operations. I want you to get in touch with your spiritual side. I used to be on a comedy group called MDE. A guy I talked about in previous episodes, Sam Hyde and him were best friends. But Charles went his own way, and to be honest, he's kind of blackpilled. He's kind of bleak, but he's trying to remain optimistic. But he's a fucking great wee laugh, and see when you get into his fucking his buzz and start to understand how his mind works. He's that blackpilled, he's went that far down the rabbit hole, he's came out the other fucking end, a fucking donkey, you know what I mean? He's went all the way down there and just the rabbit hole just spat him out and said, just give up on humanity, lad. But he doesn't give up on people, and he doesn't give up on creating, and he doesn't give up on the human spirit. He calls it Murph. He says he doesn't give a fuck about the people out in the street. They'll fucking laugh if you were burned alive. He said all he cares about is reducing pain and suffering and the people around him that care about him. He said apart from that, they can all go fuck themselves, because this word's fucked, and you're not going to get any bonus points by pointing out the strings to people and explaining to them how fucked it is, which is what I was doing in his comedy group MDE. He got disenfranchised by that because he realised that you can't wake people up. These people don't want to be wake up. They're trying to wake you up to what they feel is wrong. It's like an oppositional conflict going on with human nature, where every fucking body's got such a big ego that they think they're the one that knows everything that's going on, which isn't true. All of us have fragments. But Charles Carrol, some boy, he does these podcasts, and he's got his own wee community. He also done a series of podcasts with a guy called Doug Tinapple, who's the inventor of Airform Gym, and they just get banter back and forth, talking to each other. That wee podcast that they do together is called Can't Get Here From Here. But the one that Charles Carrol does on his Jack Todd is the one that I always watch. He just has loads of black pills and red pills and fucking different ways they look at things. One of the things, a piece of advice that I've took with me that he's always said is you don't wait to be happy. It's so simple, but it's so true. He said you don't wait to be happy to do things. You don't sit around waiting to be happy to do things. You do things, then you sit around being happy. You know what I mean? And that's so true, because a big part of me of being an artist is thinking, I'll get the right moment when I feel right, I'll do it, and then I'll feel class. But it's about doing it, feeling shit, finishing it, feeling fucking brilliant, So remember that one, folks. You don't wait to feel good to do something. You do something and then you feel good. But I check out his podcast. It's called Charles Carrol. He's got a YouTube channel, and it's spelled Charls. He's pretty cool. He's completely the opposite of Joe Rogan. This boy's all against drugs and all, but he smokes cigars like fuck, so he's a bit of a hypocrite in that way. But he's into like sort of clean living, but having a laugh and big ideas too. He reckons that Antarctica is like a place where like the Catholic Church and the US government can harness fucking demonic souls. He's that far down the rabbit hole that he literally believes the reason where nobody's allowed to go to Antarctica is because they've got a demonic portal there. So that's how far up his jack side he is with the fucking internet's left him. He's just brought himself now just to talk in his wee community and fucking blackballing the rest of the internet. But he's pretty good. Hey, he inspired me to do podcasts, so check him out. But fuck. Well, we're at 29 minutes now, so this is literally going to go off in about 40 seconds. So I'll just tell you what I'll be talking about after those 40 seconds, and I'll click record again. But we're going to talk about some of the old TV shows in the 90s that started off video games. You would have watched them to get all your lowdown on video games. They're like magazines. I'm going to talk about some of them. And I'm going to talk about growing up playing Zelda. I think that's kind of funny. And then maybe we'll leave it for another day. We'll finish off with them two subjects. The camera died there, as I was saying, in 40 seconds, but we're going to talk about the old video game shows in the 90s. Just a few of them there, give you a wee recap on them, because I grew up watching the fuck out of them, as I've said these before. You probably know by now. I'm into the retro video game scene and watching that industry grow and prosper. It's almost like you're watching an art form evolve as a kid. But I want to talk about those old video game shows, playing Zelda. And also an extra wee topic, just to get another fucking few minutes on there. I want to talk about the similarity between Protestants and Catholics. We're keeping it local! But it's funny because that's what I was trying to talk about, is we share more alliances, more things that are similar. As a guy that I listen to quite a lot, he's like a philosopher from the 60s that was big into the acid movement, but his name is Ram Dass. And his idea is that there's more similarities in us than differences. If we only focused on that which connects us and not that which separates us, we can get closer to achieving, the realms of ego death, sort of, in day-to-day life, which is like sort of the realms where a lot of ascended masters are at. A lot of us can get ego death on LSD, but there's actually countries on their own. We know ego all the time, just interested in serving humanity and loving and all that there fucking shit. Like JC was basically a guy that had ego death 24/7, know what I mean? But Link's Awakening, Zelda in general really, and the old video game shows, and the similarity between Catholics and Protestants, that's the wee subjects we'll use early tie it up. So today was a bit of a longer one, folks. I'll let it wind on a bit today. I haven't been acting like a candy man, but we done what we could. We tried our best. We tried our best. But Bad Influence, Games Word, Games Master, Cybernet. Do you remember them? I fucking remember them. Games Master's probably the one that you all remember from back in the day. That was a video game show with your man, or the fucking Starry Night and Dominic Diamond. What do you call your man again? Patrick Stewart? No, Patrick. Hey, the old guy that done the Sky at Night years and years ago. Patrick. Fuck. If you know his name, tell me in the comics. That'll be bothering me for weeks unless I fucking Google it now. But Patrick, fuck, what's his name? Forget his name, but he would do the guy with the fucking monocle that came in and told you all the cheats and all. Well, today on Bubble 2, we've got a cheat for fucking Ryu and Gal, and we're going to give you press 5, up, down, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and press A, B, C, and you can have Ryu give Ken a blowjob. So yeah, he was your cheats man, and Dominic Diamond would always talk to these wee shitty fucking computer game fucking editors and fucking people that wrote shit in video magazines, and they'd come on acting like they were the fucking on a TED conference giving out fucking golden nuggets of fucking 8-bit knowledge, and he'd be all sitting talking to them, giving out wanking jokes and all. And then another thing that you got in fucking Games Master was the Golden Joystick Award, where this big fucking boy fucking pumped up on steroids with a fucking death mask coming on, the type of mask you would wear if you were cutting somebody's fucking head on. If you bit somebody in a game, he'd come out with a golden joystick and the big fucking opera music and all playing. So Games Master was probably the one, the daddy of all the video game shows back in the day. That's the one that everybody knows. That's the one that everybody remembers, They always had like fucking these double entendres and dick jokes hidden amongst the fucking gags. It's basically just filled with jokes about masturbation and all sorts of shit. But the stuff that would never pass on the TV now as a young person's show. But back then, it was filled with all fucking crude jokes, like it wouldn't air today. But back in them days, you loved all them fucking wanking jokes. Like, I don't know what it was with computer magazines and just computer games in general. There was lots of jokes on there about masturbation, about the fact that the people playing these games were fucking bitten a bastard themselves 12 times a day. Oh, those were the days, man. Take me back. Those were the days. But Games Master was the daddy, And if you remember the titles, it would have this fucking big dystopian, like fucking futuristic, kind of the world we're in now, where they have all this digital code flying through. It was this big fucking abandoned warehouse building, and all the kids would go fucking mad. They go, ah, Street Fighter 2. But that made it more of an epic show, and it was more of a grown up audience. So it was more your Mega Drive. Your person that owned a Mega Drive would be playing Games Master. Your person that owned a fucking Super Nintendo would probably be watching Bad Influence, and a person that owned an Atari be playing Games World. But do you remember Games World? That was the one where they got all about Big Daddy Kane and fucking all these like sort of like wrestling characters to come out and play video games against you. With Sky One played that, and I used to have my ma tortured every Sunday night to watch Games World. Can't remember the name of some of the characters, but it was basically like taking the vibe of wrestling, but just like fucking fisting you off against wrestler video games. But it wasn't like Games Master where it had informative reviews and would give you wee tidbits of information. This was just basically just head to head fucking combat the whole way through. All it really done was show you footage of the games, you know what I mean? It wasn't that good. And then another one you'll probably remember is Cybernet. That was the one with like the TV hit. That probably ran into the 2000s, in fact. But it was like a woman talking. She would talk about all the games about 2 or 3 in the morning, and she'd give you all these shitty fucking second-rate reviews. They were actually crap at reviewing the games. They would always give games decent reviews, and they wouldn't fucking. They never called stuff shit really, but it was pretty good. A lot of people would remember that if they were smoking a weed a lot in the late 90s, the early 2000s. People would be sitting up watching that late at night. But Games World, Games Master, Cybernet, Bad Influence is my favourite, but that featured Violet Berlin and Andy Crane. In every episode they would talk about fucking video games in a very Tomorrow's World type fashion, you know what I mean? It was very like fucking informative of its time. And it would actually talk about things pretty in depth. A lot of people would give Bad Influence a hard time, but it's available on fucking line. You can watch it now. I sit and rewatch the episodes all the time. It's just nostalgia plus reminds me of coming home after me eating my dinner and watching Bad Influence and my ma out in the kitchen cooking for me. It's just great memories, hey. But Bad Influence, Andy Crane, Fighter Berlin, and there was this guy in it called Namrud, which spoke backwards, read backwards, reads Doorman. And he was your guy to give you the cheats. And he would go, hello and welcome today on Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo. Press A and B and C and you will get a cheat to give Blow anal fucking sex. Yes. But he was good. He was fucking good. And it was a good, informative show. It was a type of show that had shit presenters, but the people who are writing it were actually into video games. They knew their stuff. And as far as old video game shows go, that there would be my favourite. There's some fucking atrocious video game shows that came around as well, like games, videos, movies that used to be on. Used to give you about 10 minutes of video games clips every Saturday. And butts, them free whores, the dumb butts, free gears. They were trying to like bring gears on the video gamers around the PS1 era. And they were all, yeah, games are video games cool for girls too. In fact, butts is probably responsible for fucking for bringing lots of gears to a video game. It was like kind of marketed as a cool thing, and then of course the whole fucking fantasy of having a gamer fucking chick sort of sprang from all that there, you know. But Butts was crap. It was basically three stupid bitches talking about video games, acting like they knew what they were talking about, and they just didn't have a fucking clue. They should have been talking about fucking, I don't know, the stresses and fucking, you know, makeup. Well, it's a general rule that women don't really like girls, and those that do are usually fucking BBT or off their or girls don't really like video games, and ones that do are usually a general rule that they're off their fucking heads, and they'll get crazy in a year or two. God forgive me, the feminists are going to come at me for this one. Oh no. But that was a Bad Influence and all that there back in the day, and we'll leave out Cells. I'll talk about that in the next episode, but I want to talk about the similarities between Catholics and Protestants just to end it off. Have you ever wondered about, as I was saying, the unity in things? Like Catholics and Protestants, They both wear ski masks. They both throw petrol bombs. They both build bonfires. They both adore Neanderthal politicians. They both get their fucking guns off Russians. They both adorn football tops as modes of identity, political identity too. There's just so many similarities between Protestants and Catholics supposedly in a war together. I mean, if they just took all the tropes and symbols of each of their ideology and got rid of the hatred of each other, they could actually sit together and have a fucking party and a few drinks. They get on fucking fire. If they just abandoned all the I hate you because of your fucking love of Brits and I hate you because of your love of the Irish. If they just maybe formed a wee ideology around ski masks and armour lights and fucking getting pissed and building bonfires, I think we have potential for Northern Ireland. Do you know what I mean? But I always think about that. I thought about doing a wee art piece about it. I was thinking about how you could get the two lampposts and split the picture. One lamppost in the bog side, one lamppost in the fountain, and split the picture right down the middle of the lamppost where it's got the red, white and blue on the image, and it's sort of like similarities in what they do, but differences in where they are and what they come from. And I think you could apply the same schematic. They they like the bonfire, have the Huns bonfire on one side of the picture and the Catholics on one side, and you have all their symbolism of hatred towards each other, but yet there they are unified in one family. I think you could do that really well. I think there's lots of things like that amongst Catholics and Protestants. Even did a very thing that they do murals. That we're on the murals. We do murals of each other. It's kind of like the enemies copying the other and trying to outdo each other, loving what they do. But you know what I mean? It's like all the similarities are there between us. Even and I'm not talking about similarities and talking about similarities in our war. That's where we hold the most similarities, which is so strange to me. But I just thought that was worth touching on. Think about it yourself, sure. See what other similarities you can spot and leave them in the comment box if you think they're fucking worthwhile noticing. But isn't it funny that they share aren't as separate from the things that we hate each other for. But I think I'll leave it at that anyway, folks. I've talked about a fair few today. What did I talk about? We talked about Richard Feynman, genius. We talked about the priest that invented the Big Bang. We talked about Alonzo, George and Leslie. We talked about the similarities between Catholics and Protestants. We talked about all the old video game shows in the 90s. And we talked briefly about a guy called Charles Carrol who does the antithesis of a Joe Rogan podcast. So I think we've done alright. We left a few subjects out, but so well, we'll put them on the next episode. The next time, folks, don't let the bastards grind you down. I'll be doing more of these regularly, up life. And also, before I go, we've got a new video coming soon on the YouTubes. It'll be a fucking funny spiritual sequel to Rats Up and Cragen. Hopefully we get it shot next week. Told you about that quite a while back on Facebook, but it's coming again. So there you go, up a stickies, and never let the bastards grind you down. And I'll see you next time.